It all started with what seemed like a regular dinner party at our home. You know, the typical gig where Mark, my husband, plays the charming host while I run around making sure everyone's glass is never empty and the appetizers are just right. His friends, a bunch of boisterous guys with questionable humor, were there too. I always felt a bit uneasy around them, call it a sixth sense or just plain dislike. That night, though, the tension was thicker than Mark's attempts at homemade guacamole. They exchanged secretive glances and whispered conversations that seemed to end the moment I stepped into the room. It was like they were in some sort of secret club, and the membership requirement was being as creepy as possible. But I was too busy being the perfect hostess to delve deeper into their weirdness. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe it was just the usual guy talk about sports or whatever men find fascinating. A few days later, Mark suggested we go on a short vacation. Now, this was out of character. Mark barely had the initiative to choose a restaurant for dinner, let alone plan a getaway. Still, I welcomed the change. We drove to a remote cabin, far from the prying eyes of civilization. Romantic, right? Or so I thought. The isolation was supposed to be a welcome break, but instead, it amplified my growing unease. Mark was distant, preoccupied, and constantly glued to his phone. Romantic, my foot. On the second night at the cabin, Mark had a brilliant idea. How about inviting his friends over for a party? Oh, joy. I was reluctant, but he assured me it would be fun. Spoiler alert. It was not. The evening progressed with alcohol flowing like it was going out of style. I began to feel lightheaded, and not just from the drinks. The atmosphere grew increasingly suggestive, and his friends started making inappropriate comments. I laughed them off, but deep down, alarm bells were ringing. The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache and fragmented memories. Ever had one of those mornings where you feel like you got hit by a truck? This was worse. Mark's friends were already up, acting like nothing unusual had happened. Mark was unusually affectionate, almost clingy. It was creepy. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had occurred, but I had no concrete memories to latch onto. Just shadows and whispers that gnawed at my sanity. Back home, I tried to slip back into our routine, but the nagging feeling of betrayal wouldn't leave me. Mark's behavior grew more erratic. He was constantly inviting his friends over, and their conversations would abruptly stop whenever I entered the room. Real subtle, guys. My suspicions grew, and I started paying closer attention to their interactions. The more I observed, the more I felt like a stranger in my own home. Finally, I decided to confide in my best friend, Lisa. Over coffee, I spilled the beans about the strange events at the cabin and my growing unease. Lisa was supportive, like a rock in a stormy sea. She suggested I keep a closer watch on Mark and his friends. She also mentioned seeing Mark with his friends at a bar recently, acting suspiciously. Great, just what I needed, more fuel for my paranoia. Driven by Lisa's advice, I started my investigation. Call it snooping if you want, but desperate times call for desperate measures. One morning, while Mark was in the shower, I went through his phone. What I found made my blood run cold. Incriminating messages between Mark and his friends. Explicit, shocking, and horrifying. They detailed their plan to drug me and take turns with me while Mark watched. My heart raced as I realized the depth of their betrayal. My world shattered into a million pieces. There it was, in black and white. Proof that the man I thought I knew, the man I trusted, was a monster. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling a mix of rage, disgust, and sheer terror. The mask had slipped, and the true face of my husband and his friends was more horrifying than any nightmare. Armed with the horrifying knowledge, I decided it was time to confront Mark. You'd think I'd be shaking in my boots, but I was too pissed off to be scared. I waited for him to come home, my heart pounding like a drum solo in a rock concert. When he walked in, looking all smug and unsuspecting, I felt a cold rage settle over me. Mark, we need to talk, I said, my voice deceptively calm. His eyes flickered with something, annoyance, maybe. I held up his phone, the incriminating messages displayed like a neon sign in Vegas. He didn't deny it. Oh no, instead, he smirked. You were always too naive, he said, as if he was discussing the weather. His indifference was chilling, and I felt a mix of rage and helplessness bubble up inside me. He went on about how it was just a fantasy, something I would eventually come to enjoy. Enjoy? Was he out of his mind? I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain I was in. But I didn't. Instead, I stored that rage for later. Determined to gather more evidence, I turned our home into a surveillance hub. Hidden cameras in every room, recording every move. Watching the footage was like being stabbed repeatedly. It confirmed my worst fears. Mark and his friends had turned our home into their playground, violating my trust and my body repeatedly. It was like a bad horror movie, except this was my life. Next step. Protect myself. I reached out to a lawyer, Sarah. She specialized in cases of sexual assault and domestic abuse. From the moment I met her, I felt a glimmer of hope. She was empathetic, yet fierce, a warrior in a pantsuit. Sarah advised me to keep gathering evidence while she prepared a case against Mark and his twisted friends. Mark's behavior grew more erratic as he sensed my growing distance. He started showering me with gifts and apologies, trying to gaslight me into believing it was all a misunderstanding. "It's just a phase," he'd say, handing me flowers. Flowers, as if a bouquet could erase what he'd done. But I played along, pretending to be the confused, forgiving wife while secretly planning my escape. I decided to take a leave of absence from work, citing health reasons. My colleagues were concerned, especially Mr. Thompson, my boss. He was a kind man, always looking out for his employees. I assured them it was temporary, but the truth was, I needed time to plan my next steps without raising suspicion. Mr. Thompson offered any help I might need, and I felt a pang of gratitude. During my time off, I reconnected with old friends and family, people Mark had isolated me from over the years. They were horrified by my story and offered their unwavering support. My cousin, Emily, was particularly livid. She suggested setting a trap for Mark and his friends to catch them in the act, solidifying the evidence we needed. With Sarah's guidance, we planned the sting operation. Emily offered her cabin for the setup. We equipped it with hidden cameras and microphones, and I lured Mark into planning another getaway. The plan was risky, but it was my only hope of exposing their depravity and ensuring they faced justice. I felt like I was starring in my own espionage thriller, but this was no movie. This was my life, and I was going to reclaim it, no matter the cost. As the day of the sting approached, my anxiety reached new heights. Acting normal around Mark, pretending everything was fine, was like walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, knowing what I knew. Emily and Sarah were my anchors, reminding me of the bigger picture. Their confidence was a lifeline in a sea of doubt and fear. Mark took the bait eagerly, the idiot. He invited his friends for another weekend at the cabin, no questions asked. I could barely contain my disgust as I went through the motions, packing bags and planning meals, all while knowing what lay ahead. This time, I made sure to slip a sedative into their drinks, ensuring they wouldn't remember the night. It was a small act of defiance, a way to reclaim some control. The hidden cameras captured everything, from their disgusting conversations to their heinous actions. Watching it unfold was like living through a nightmare, but it was necessary. The footage was damning. Sarah assured me it was more than enough to build a solid case. We collected all the evidence and stored it safely, ready to present it to the authorities. The weight of what I had endured was almost too much to bear, but I knew I was on the right path. Every vile act they committed was another nail in their coffin. The next morning, I left the cabin early, pretending to go for a walk. Instead, I drove straight to the police station, heart pounding like a jackhammer. Handing over the footage and a detailed statement felt surreal. The officers were initially skeptical, probably thinking I was another hysterical woman with a vendetta. But the evidence spoke for itself. They promised to act swiftly, their expressions shifting from doubt to grim determination. Mark and his friends were arrested later that day. The news spread like wildfire through our community, and I became the center of attention. People I barely knew reached out with support, while others whispered behind my back. It was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, relief, fear, and a strange sense of vindication. But I remained focused on the legal battle ahead. This was far from over. The trial was grueling, a battle of wills and wits. Mark and his friends denied everything, their lawyers trying to paint me as a vindictive wife seeking revenge. Seriously? They were really going to play that card? But the evidence was undeniable. The footage, my testimony, and the support of Lisa and Emily painted a clear picture of their crimes. It was like watching a house of cards collapse in slow motion. In the end, justice prevailed. Mark and his friends were convicted and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. The relief was overwhelming, a heavy weight lifting off my shoulders. But so was the trauma of what I had endured. It wasn't just about the physical violation, it was about the betrayal, the shattering of trust, and the psychological scars. Sarah helped me navigate the legal aftermath, ensuring I received the support and protection I needed. Walking out of the courtroom that day, I felt a mix of emotions, triumph, exhaustion, and a flicker of hope. The road ahead was long, and healing wouldn't be easy. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of something I thought I had lost forever, a sense of control over my own life. I had faced the darkness and come out the other side, stronger and more determined than ever to reclaim my future. With Mark safely behind bars, I began the slow, painful process of healing. Therapy became a regular part of my life, a standing date with Dr. Michaels, my therapist. She was a saint, patient and understanding, guiding me through the darkest moments with the skill of a seasoned sailor navigating a storm. Every session was like peeling an onion, layer by layer, tear by tear. Returning to work was my next big step. I walked back into the office with a newfound determination, a bit like a battle-worn soldier returning from the front lines. Mr. Thompson and my colleagues were incredibly supportive, their kindness a balm for my bruised soul. I poured myself into my projects, finding solace in the steady hum of work. It was a welcome distraction from the chaos that had become my personal life. Reconnecting with old friends and family became a priority. Funny how tragedy makes you realize who truly matters. I rekindled relationships that Mark had meticulously isolated me from, finding strength in their unwavering support. My cousin Emily and best friend Lisa were my pillars, always there to lift me up when I felt overwhelmed. Emily, with her fierce loyalty, and Lisa, with her unyielding optimism, were exactly what I needed. Despite the progress, trust remained a major issue. Dating seemed like a distant fantasy. The idea of letting someone new into my life was terrifying. Dr. Michaels encouraged me to take things slow, reminding me that healing was a journey, not a destination. She had a knack for making me feel like even my smallest steps were monumental achievements. So, I decided to focus on myself. I explored hobbies and activities that brought me joy. Painting became my therapy, a way to express emotions I couldn't put into words. I lost myself in the colors and brushstrokes, each piece a reflection of my journey. My artwork began to gain recognition, and I even held a small exhibition at a local gallery. Seeing people appreciate my work was incredibly validating. Volunteering also became a significant part of my life. I joined a support group for survivors of sexual assault, sharing my story and helping others navigate their own healing journeys. It was empowering to know I could make a difference, offering hope to those who felt as lost as I once did. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was a light to be found. Through it all, I learned to embrace my strength and resilience. The road to recovery was long and fraught with challenges, but I refused to let Mark's actions define me. I was determined to rebuild my life on my terms, finding happiness and peace in the process. Every day was a battle, but it was one I was winning. My journey was far from over, but I had taken the first crucial steps towards reclaiming my life. I had found my voice, my strength, and my purpose. And with each passing day, I grew more confident that I could face whatever came next. The scars were there, but they were a testament to my survival, a reminder of the strength I had found within myself. As I stood in front of one of my paintings at the gallery, I realized that my story was one of resilience and rebirth. It was a story of finding light in the darkest of places, of turning pain into power. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. As time passed, the idea of dating again began to creep into my thoughts. At first, it seemed ridiculous. Dating? After all I'd been through? But Dr. Michaels and my support group were like a chorus of cheerleaders, waving their pom-poms and chanting, "Not all men are like Mark." Sure, that was easy for them to say. They weren't the ones who had to dive back into the shark-infested waters of the dating pool. Still, their encouragement nudged me towards taking the plunge. I decided to dip my toes into the world of online dating. What could go wrong, right? I matched with a man named Alex. His profile picture didn't scream serial killer, which was a good start. He seemed kind and understanding, at least from the carefully curated snippets of his life on the app. Our first date was nerve-wracking. I spent more time picking out my outfit than I had on anything else in months. But Alex was patient and respectful, making me feel at ease. We bonded over shared interests, movies, books, the universal disdain for pineapple on pizza. I found myself looking forward to our conversations, a strange and wonderful feeling. As our relationship progressed, I knew I had to be upfront with Alex about my past. One evening, over a simple dinner, I laid it all out. Mark, the betrayal, the trial, everything. My heart pounded in my chest as I waited for his reaction. To my relief, Alex's response was one of empathy and support, not judgment. He held my hand and assured me that my past didn't define me. It was a refreshing change, like stepping into the cool shade after being scorched by the sun. I began to see a future where I could trust and love again. We took things slow, building a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Meanwhile, my career continued to thrive. I received a promotion, a shiny new title to go with my ever-growing to-do list. My projects gained recognition within the industry, and it was gratifying to see my hard work pay off. I threw myself into new challenges with enthusiasm, finding a sense of purpose in my professional life. My colleagues became my second family, celebrating my successes and supporting me through setbacks. The office buzzed with excitement whenever a project milestone was achieved, and I reveled in the camaraderie. I also deepened my involvement with the support group, eventually becoming a co-leader. Sharing my story and helping others navigate their healing journeys was incredibly fulfilling. I saw the impact of my efforts firsthand, as members found strength and hope in our community. We organized events, workshops, and support sessions, creating a safe haven for survivors to connect and heal. It was a labor of love, and I was proud of the difference we were making. Alex and I took a weekend trip to the coast, a small but significant step in our relationship. The tranquility of the ocean and the simplicity of our time together reminded me of the beauty in life. We walked along the beach, collecting seashells and talking about everything and nothing. It was a stark contrast to the chaos I had endured, and I cherished every moment. The salty breeze, the sound of the waves, and Alex's warm presence made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. Our relationship continued to grow, and on our one-year anniversary, Alex proposed. It was a quiet, intimate moment, filled with love and promise. He took me to the spot where we had our first date, the place where I had first started to believe in the possibility of a new beginning. As he knelt down and asked me to marry him, tears welled up in my eyes. Saying yes felt like reclaiming my future, a step towards a life free from the shadows of my past. As I slipped the ring onto my finger, I realized how far I had come. From the depths of despair and betrayal, I had risen, finding strength and love along the way. My journey was far from over, but with Alex by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. The scars of my past were still there, but they no longer defined me. They were a testament to my resilience, a reminder of the strength I had found within myself. And as I looked into Alex's eyes, I knew that the future was bright, filled with hope and endless possibilities. Just when I thought I had moved past the darkest chapter of my life, the universe decided it wasn't quite done with me. I received a letter from Mark. That's right, Mark, the man who shattered my world. It was a long, rambling apology, filled with excuses and pleas for forgiveness. Apparently, he'd found God in prison and now wanted to make amends. Typical, he screws up my life and then expects divine intervention to fix everything. The letter triggered a wave of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to tear it up and pretend it never arrived, but another part of me craved closure. I couldn't just ignore it. I discussed it with Dr. Michaels and my support group, seeking their advice on how to handle this unexpected intrusion. Opinions were mixed. Some said to throw it away and move on, while others thought I should confront it head-on. After much deliberation, I decided to write back. Not for him, but for me. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was about asserting my power and making it clear that his actions had changed my life forever. I poured my heart into the letter, detailing the pain and trauma he had caused, and the strength I had found despite it. It was cathartic, in a way, like exorcising a particularly persistent demon. Mark's response was surprisingly humble. He acknowledged his actions and expressed deep remorse. It was a small victory, knowing he understood the gravity of his crimes. I felt a sense of closure, a final chapter in the saga of our relationship. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed me to close that door and lock it tight. Life with Alex continued to flourish. We planned our wedding, a small ceremony with close friends and family. It was a celebration of love and resilience, a testament to the strength I had found within myself and the new life I was building. Every detail of the wedding felt like reclaiming a piece of my happiness. The venue, the flowers, even the playlist, it was all perfect. Emily and Lisa played crucial roles in the wedding, standing by my side as bridesmaids. Their unwavering support had been a cornerstone of my recovery, and I was grateful to share this joyous occasion with them. The day was filled with laughter, love, and hope for the future. I looked around at all the smiling faces and felt a profound sense of peace. This was my new beginning. After the wedding, Alex and I settled into married life. It was a new chapter, filled with promise and potential. We talked about starting a family, excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. The scars of my past remained, but they no longer defined me. They were reminders of where I had been and how far I had come. In the quiet moments, when Alex and I were curled up on the couch or taking a walk through the park, I reflected on the journey. From the depths of betrayal to the heights of love and resilience, it had been a hell of a ride. But I had survived, I had thrived, and I was ready for whatever came next. Life had thrown me more curveballs than I thought possible, but here I was, standing strong. With Alex by my side and a bright future ahead, I felt an unshakable sense of hope. The past was behind me, and the future was mine to shape. This new chapter was just the beginning, and I was more than ready to write it. Just when I thought life had finally calmed down, I received a call from Sarah. It was one of those moments where your stomach does a little flip, and you just know something big is about to drop. She told me there had been a development in Mark's case. New evidence had come to light, implicating more people in those horrendous acts. Seriously, more people? I was beginning to think my life was some sort of twisted soap opera. Sarah asked if I was willing to testify again, to help bring them to justice. The idea of reopening old wounds was daunting. Did I really want to drag myself through that nightmare again? But I knew it was the right thing to do. These people needed to face the consequences of their actions. So, I agreed to testify, determined to ensure that everyone involved got what they deserved. The trial was set, and I braced myself for another legal battle. This time, though, I was stronger. I had a supportive husband, a solid career, and a community of friends and family who stood by me. I was ready to face the courtroom again, to tell my story and fight for justice. The process was grueling, endless questions, reliving the trauma, and facing those monsters again. But I refused to back down. During the trial, more details emerged about the extent of the abuse. It was horrifying to realize how deep the conspiracy went. People I had once considered acquaintances were involved, their betrayal cutting like a knife. But it also reinforced my resolve. I gave my testimony with confidence, knowing that my words had the power to make a difference. Each word was a step towards justice, a step towards reclaiming my life. The new defendants were convicted, and additional sentences were handed down. It was another victory, another step towards closure. The weight of the past began to lift, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and justice. I had fought back and won, not just for myself, but for all the survivors who still struggled in silence. With the legal battles behind me, I focused on the future. Alex and I decided to start a family, excited about the new chapter ahead. The journey was challenging, but we faced it together, supporting each other through every obstacle. I marveled at the strength and love that had grown between us, a stark contrast to the darkness I had once known. I continued my work with the support group, now more passionate than ever. Helping others find their strength became my mission, a way to give back and honor my own journey. The group flourished, growing into a beacon of hope for survivors. Each meeting, each story shared, was a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. One evening, as I looked around at my life, my loving husband, our cozy home, my thriving career, I realized how far I had come. The shadows of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had reclaimed my life, piece by piece, and found a strength I never knew I had. Alex and I welcomed our first child, a beautiful baby girl. Holding her in my arms, I felt a surge of love and hope. She represented a fresh start, a future free from the darkness of my past. I vowed to protect her and teach her the strength and resilience that had carried me through. Parenthood brought its own set of challenges, but Alex and I navigated them together. Our bond grew stronger as we faced sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. Our home was filled with laughter and joy, a stark contrast to the turmoil I had once known. I continued to share my story, both in the support group and through public speaking engagements. My experiences resonated with many, offering hope and inspiration. It was a reminder that even the darkest times could lead to new beginnings. One day, I received a message from a woman who had read about my story. She was in a similar situation, feeling trapped and powerless. We corresponded regularly, and I helped her find the courage to leave her abusive partner and seek help. It was a powerful reminder of the impact we can have on each other's lives. My artwork continued to gain recognition, with several pieces being featured in prominent galleries. Painting had become more than a hobby. It was a way to process my emotions and share my journey with the world. Each piece told a story of resilience and hope. As our daughter grew, I marveled at her curiosity and strength. She was a constant source of joy and inspiration, a reminder of the beautiful life I had built from the ashes of my past. I was determined to be the best mother I could be, guiding her with love and wisdom. Alex and I decided to have another child, excited to expand our family. The pregnancy was smooth, and we welcomed a healthy baby boy. Our family felt complete, and our home was filled with even more love and laughter. We moved to a new house, a larger home with a big backyard for the kids to play in. It was a fresh start in a new neighborhood, filled with promise and potential. We settled in quickly, making new friends and creating happy memories. Life settled into a comfortable routine. I balanced my career, motherhood, and my work with the support group. Each day was a testament to the strength and resilience I had found, a reminder of how far I had come. One evening, I received a call from Dr. Michaels. She had been invited to speak at a conference on trauma and recovery and wanted me to join her as a co-speaker. It was an incredible honor, and I eagerly accepted. Sharing my story on such a platform was a powerful opportunity. As I stood on stage, looking out at the audience, I felt a surge of pride. My journey had come full circle. From the depths of despair, I had risen, finding strength, love, and a new purpose. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it, one step at a time. The conference was nothing short of transformative. Standing before an audience of survivors, therapists, and advocates, I shared my journey from victim to survivor. It felt like bearing my soul to a room full of strangers, but their response was overwhelming. Many attendees expressed their gratitude and admiration, and for the first time, I felt the true power of my story. My past, once a source of shame and pain, had become a beacon of hope for others. After the conference, the invitations started pouring in. Apparently, my story resonated with a lot of people. Who knew? It was surreal to be seen as a source of inspiration and strength. I was determined to use my platform to advocate for change and support survivors. This was a new chapter in my journey, one filled with purpose and hope. I had gone from being a broken woman to someone who could help piece others back together. I also decided to write a book, detailing my experiences and the lessons I had learned. Revisiting those painful memories was cathartic, like lancing a boil and letting all the poison drain out. The book became a bestseller, reaching readers around the world and offering hope to those in similar situations. Knowing that my words could make a difference felt like the ultimate victory. Through my advocacy work, I met incredible individuals dedicated to supporting survivors and fighting for justice. Together, we launched a nonprofit organization aimed at providing resources and support for those affected by sexual assault and domestic violence. Our organization grew rapidly, gaining support from the community and beyond. We offered counseling, legal assistance, and educational programs, making a tangible difference in the lives of many. It was a fulfilling and empowering endeavor, a way to turn my pain into purpose. I also continued my work with the support group, now expanded to include several chapters across the country. Our meetings were a safe space for survivors to share their stories, find support, and rebuild their lives. It was heartening to see the impact of our efforts, to witness firsthand the strength and resilience of the human spirit. Alex remained my rock through it all. His unwavering support and love were constants in my life, helping me navigate the challenges and celebrate the victories. Our relationship grew stronger with each passing day, a testament to the power of love and resilience. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving, together. Our children thrived in the loving environment we had created. They were happy, curious, and compassionate, embodying the values we had instilled in them. Watching them grow was a source of endless joy and pride. Every milestone, every laugh, every tear, they were all reminders of the beautiful life we had built. Reflecting on my journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The path had been arduous, filled with pain and struggle, but it had also led to incredible growth and transformation. I had found my voice, my strength, and my purpose. I was no longer defined by my past but empowered by it. As I stood on the stage at another conference, sharing my story with yet another audience, I realized that my journey was far from over. There were still battles to be fought, lives to be changed, and hope to be offered. And I was ready, stronger and more determined than ever. The world needed voices like mine, and I was committed to being one of them. Each step I took was a testament to my resilience, a reminder that even the darkest times could lead to new beginnings. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it, one story at a